Hi, it's Kim from the Shamrock Quilt Studio. I've got a tool I'd like to share with you today that may be helpful in your quilting. Now, this particular iron is not something that I would use for all of your ironing and pressing, nor would I say it's a great tool if you have a large area that you need to press or iron. But if you have something that you need to make a quick press so you could move on to your next seam, like a press and seam and press and seam, this is perfect. Or if you have a really small area where you need to be very exact about what you're doing, this is better because it has a smaller ironing plate than our typical irons do. Now, this is called the Dritz, let me get it just right, Petite Press Portable Mini Iron. And you can see how big it is. It's about 7 or 8 inches long. It has a fairly long cord. I'd say it's about 10 feet maybe, somewhere between 6 and 10 feet. It has a bar here that you can stand it up. What's the best way to do this? It stands up so the hot edge is not touching your fabric, which makes it safe. It has a second position that you can put it in so it's out of the way when you're... So the second position here puts the little bracket out of your way. And I have a little cart over here that has a railing on the top. And what I do is I hang this on that railing when I'm finished and it's still warm until it dries off. And then that keeps it from touching anything and melting something or starting a fire or whatever an iron would do when it's left unattended. So I really like that feature because sometimes when you're just leaving something like this, you've got this cord and it could get knocked off, but that I find very helpful. It's got an on-off button, it's got 4 speeds, and it has an up and down button to change that. And maybe it's not speeds, maybe it's heat levels is what we're talking about. So I've had it up on 4 probably for about 6 or 7 minutes now. And if I use this to iron or to press, in that amount of time, it's pretty warm. I wouldn't want to touch it, that's for sure, based on what the fabric feels like. And it's probably suitable enough to hold that seam in place. What I'm working with here is 2 pieces of fabric where the seam has been pressed open, and I'm trying to unpress that open seam to put them back together, to press to one side. And that does a pretty good job. Now, my biggest complaint with this is, in general, I wish it got a little bit hotter. But I can understand why they may not want to do that. 4 is the hottest temperature. And I've found that when I've used it in the past, I'd have to hold it on the fabric longer than I'd liked to be able to get that crisp edge. One thing I think it's really good for is if you're working with applique and you are turning your fabric under, getting ready to sew it on. If you had a little piece and you could just kind of touch it to get that nice crisp edge before you sewed it on, I think that would be very helpful. Now, that's the second time I've hit that spot there, and now it is completely flat. I have taken that seam that was pressed open and I've been able to press this area completely flat to one side. And then if I try to open it again, let's see what happens. It's still warm from that other press. That did a pretty good job. Like I said, it's not as hot and it's not as fast as a regular iron. You don't have all the temperature controls that you would with a regular iron, and you don't have steam. There's no steam here. This is just hot. And of course, very little weight because this is under a pound. It's probably 6 ounces, 8 ounces, maybe. It's very lightweight. It's easy to use. I think it's a great tool if you've got the cash to spend on it. I think it would be handy in some instances. If I'm just running this over this, thinking it's going to take it all out, it's not going to. It's not going to give me a crisp seam just running it over. It is definitely going to be something where you need to hold it there for a few minutes. The website, the questions on the websites indicate that this has an auto shut off after 60 minutes. I don't have my paperwork that came with that. I couldn't guarantee it, but that's the information that I was seeing on Amazon for this. I know I've seen this particular iron at several cloth and craft stores, so I think it's easy to find. And it does a great job. If you're looking for something to supplement your regular ironing, this would be handy. So I'm going to give you a little close-up view. There's the ironing surface. It's probably 2.5 inches from the point to the bottom. The whole unit itself is about 9 inches long from tip to cord. It's very nice to use. It fits your hand nicely. And then I'm not sure what these are. We'll find out together. The side unscrews. I need to be very careful because it is still plugged in. But I'm going to peek in here and we're going to see what's going on. Oh, look at there. The head, the ironing head adjusts. So if you wanted to iron like this, I'm not quite sure why you would want to, but if you wanted to, you could. I didn't know that. You learn something new every day, don't you? So you could use this if you, let's say you wanted more like an ironing, like a real ironing board, or excuse me, an iron. You could put it down this way. I think I prefer the way it was, just that slight little bit. But we do. We learn something every day, don't we? Okay, and just tighten that right back up and we're good. It's still on. We certainly aren't going to sit around an hour and wait for it to go off. So we'll take someone's word for that right now. I would encourage you to read your packaging when you get it to see that it does really shut off after an hour. And then the controls on it are a little lighted. Little red indicators there. It's on 4. And if we push this button right here, now it should be off. It is off. The little red light on the right hand side is still lit. I think that's to indicate that it's still hot or that it's plugged in. But it is off. And then I can pull this down and just, whoops, and just hang it up. And it should stay right there, out of the way, not burn anything. I hope you like this. If you're considering buying it, it may have given you some ideas about how it is in practical everyday use versus what you see in a package. I think sometimes we see things in a package and we expect it to act a certain way, and in reality it acts a little differently. So if there's a big gap in what we expected and how it really behaves, we're disappointed with the project. This particular iron runs about $25. That was listed as a sale price, but I suspect that that's a sale price off suggested retail, because I don't think that I paid more than about $25 for that when I bought it. And again, it would be a good time to use a coupon or look for sales on, 20% off everything in the store, or 20% off quilting tools or sewing tools in your store that you have available to you. I know that where I live, I have only 2 stores close to me. And when I say close to me, I mean less than a 30-minute drive from the town I'm in to the town the store is in. So I try to buy what I can locally. Unfortunately, I don't have a local quilt shop within, I would say, almost an hour drive from where I am. So the trips to the quilt store before I moved were 10 minutes, and now they're over an hour. So that doesn't happen as often. And usually I have to think about what I'm going to get before I go. Make sure I have a great list and a big pocketbook when I go. So now things are just a little bit different, but we do what we need to do. If this was a review of the mini iron was helpful to you, please subscribe to our channel and enjoy more tips on tools and techniques in the future. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.